Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya E. Hood. If you listen to this morning's episode, then you already have some great ideas about how you can grow into a better version of yourself. There's a few things that I shared that help me navigate this thing called life. Because as we go through the different experiences that we have, it's the growth that we have on the other side that support us on our journey. And so today, I shared a few things that helped me get better in what I was walking through and how I was doing this thing called life. And I want you to take some of those insights as well. Because here's the thing we often forget. When we're walking through some of the difficulties of life, trying to navigate it, we don't know how when you're in the middle of the storm. So, what I often teach, share, and show some of the things that I've walked through so that you don't have to keep stumbling on the landmines I've already crossed and you can get the support that you need. Today, I shared for those of you that may have been like me, the loving, supportive person that gives and gives and gives. When do you get the chance to love you the way you love everybody else? You have a tendency to keep giving so much that you don't give yourself the grace and space that you give to others. And sometimes when you're in a situation because you're so used to it, you're used to being that go-to person. You are used to being the backbone for everybody around you. And because you are the backbone, the strength that everybody relies on, you don't get the chance to sit still, be calm, and let you have a moment where somebody else is pouring into you. Some of you have listened to me before. I've shared with you the lesson my great grandmother taught me. You are supposed to pour into this thing called life from your saucer. If you are depleting all of who you are, you cannot give to anybody else the support that they will need along on this journey. So as you continue to be the giver, be the loving one, and there's nothing wrong with that because that is an amazing strength. But there does come a time in order for you to continue to be your best that you've got to pause and give yourself the love and support that you give everybody else. Life is going to keep on running. It's not going to give us a chance to be able to pause long enough, we feel, because you're always the one that's there for everybody else. And if you aren't there, how will they make it? I want you to know that you don't have to be the strong pillar for everybody all the time because you've got to take some time to refill. Give yourself the opportunity by changing your perspective. I shared earlier, set aside 4 hours. I know it sounds like a lot, especially if you are the one that everybody goes to. But if you set aside some time, plan it in advance. If you got small children, I shared how when I didn't have a babysitter because in the aftermath of my divorce, those of you that know when you are walking through this chaotic moment, the people that you once thought would be in your world, they're not. Those that you once called upon to help you on the journey can't be found. So if you've got children that you can stabilize in such a way, it's not like you're leaving them by yourself. In one part of the house, set aside some things for your kids to be able to entertain themselves. Are they fed? Check. Are they going to be safe? Check. Create some activity where they can have some moments. And depending on their ages, I don't know, for me, easy. My kids are 6 years apart. So when I needed to have a quick moment, yes, the 11-year-old was watching his younger brother, but I made certain that they were entertained. I let him know, hey, if y'all need a snack, in the bottom of the refrigerator because it was easy for them to reach, open up the door, take these things out. That way they had something to eat within that 4 hour time period. So I didn't have to try to figure out, will they be okay? What do they need to have? I put sandwiches that were in place. I did all the prep work in advance. Because yes, you being the pillar, you will have someone that's going to rely on you. But if you do the prep work in advance, that 4 hours, that 4 hours is going to be needed to help you change your perspective. Because the first hour that you try to do this, it's going to be useless because you're not going to do it. You're going to be thinking about everybody. You're going to feel guilty. because you want to be there for those around you. And there is nothing wrong with wanting to be there. But just like they say on a plane, in the event of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on first. You can't give the love that you want to give away freely if you don't give yourself the self-love and self-care in advance. You're going to have to make certain that you tap into that and set the boundaries that are needed because boundaries are essential. They're essential for your well-being and it will support those that rely on you. We often think that when we setting up boundaries, it's not something that can be a support to everybody around us, but it can. Think about it like this. If you have a fence around your house, that fence does two things. First, it lets people know that don't belong there. This is a sacred space. This is an environment that belongs to me and mine, and you need to be invited in. It also gives those that are in the fence freedom. When my kids got a little bit older, have them go outside in the backyard to play. The backyard is fenced in. I knew that there was a space of safety, boundaries. Create that space of safety. So maximize the boundaries that you have around you. And when you let people know what's happening along the way, they can help support you. Be like the sentries to your area to give you the support that you need so that you continue to be the strength for those around you. Give yourself the opportunity to know that it is okay. And I recognize that this is not an easy journey because, especially for those of you that are analytical and process oriented like me, it's going to take you a minute to add this into your tool belt to recognize that it is okay. While you're busy analyzing and putting together processes for everybody else, we don't often do that for ourselves. Or we are the ones that people go to because they know we'll put a plan in place to support them on the journey. But we've got to do it for ourselves. And when I made a decision to start expanding how I helped individuals, dealing with the reset strategist moments is what I typically call it. Because in the aftermath of my divorce, I learned some things. I learned that the structured element that I was able to do on my job, I had to take that home. Because what we often do professionally, we forget. We forget that you can maximize that skill personally. That personal growth will give you the opportunity to be expanded in multiple arenas. Because if you can use that strength there, you can pull it up in other places as well. So changing your perspective about how you feel about certain things in your world will give you what you need along the journey. Because we forget that life is going to throw stuff at us. In this fast-paced world, amidst all of the demands that life keeps asking of us, we don't think that we can use our strengths for ourselves. And for some of us, you've been on automatic. And you don't even recognize the strengths that really reside in your being. I want you to know that when others come to you because you are the calm in the storm, that supportive process, that supportive people-oriented element of your being, it's a strength. Support you the way you support others. And for those that are natural, logical, and analytical, we can separate the emotional parts from some of the things that's happening in our lives. And when you're walking through some chaos in your world, I need you to recognize emotions are illogical. But when you are walking through that storm of emotional warfare, you can't think enough to help you. So there will be some things that you'll need to put together as a plan in advance. One of the things that I did, and some of you know this story, but for those of you that don't judge me. It happened. So in the aftermath, well, getting to the aftermath, the last couple of years of my marriage, I recognized that I was on an emotional roller coaster. I was cycling through the emotional crap. I couldn't figure out how to get off, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. I couldn't figure out how to keep going, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. So I was stuck in an emotional spin that was so strategic that I took 1 full year and wrote on a calendar what I thought my life would look like in that year. January, I knew we were in the beginning of the year. Things in our relationship was going to be amazing. It was going to be great. It was going to be good, and I could do this thing. Second month, I wrote what day I thought it was going to be a bend because there was always a turning. And I had lived enough of the stuff, was on the cycle and the hamster wheel enough to recognize the turning. And it wasn't until I sat still to see what it was because the emotional warfare that I was sitting in the middle of, by the time it showed up, didn't give me the chance to think. So I mapped it out. I mapped out what I thought would happen month by month. I mapped out the conversations that I thought would take place. I mapped out the emotional strain that I knew I would walk through because I'd done it before. You may be in a moment in life where the emotional strains that you keep walking through keep calling you. You keep thinking, I know I'm not crazy, and I know this has happened, but you're not quite sure where the bends and the turns keep occurring in the chaos of life. Put a plan in place because walking in it emotionally, you won't be able to think. So I look at that map when it happened the following year, because I walked through the whole year. I know. And I looked, I was like, yep, that's when it happened. Yep, that's when it happened. After that 1 year, when I reached the next year, I decided I can't do this again. So I put some measures in place to interrupt my own pattern. Those of you that are joining me on this journey where I teach, share, and show, you must interrupt your own pattern. There is something that you do, a default that you walk to, because as I shared before, we all have a complex sequence. And if you're not aware of your complex sequence, then you are walking through some elements of your life trying to figure out, am I okay? Have I gone crazy? Because this looks familiar. This feels familiar, and I'm not sure how to walk through it again. When I work with my clients, I give you more understanding of your complex sequence, and then I show you how to interrupt it. Show you how to put strategies that support you, language that you can use, different touch points that will get you out of the hamster wheel of life that is driving you to a place that is no longer supporting you. When you find yourself there, a change in perspective can often help you create a new plan of action that will give you the strength that you need to stand, that will give you the strength that you need to move, that will give you the strength to recognize there is something already in you that you can use that will support you. So as you walk through this thing, adapting your strengths for personal growth, don't overthink it. Just map out what you think is going to happen. Figure out what those reflection points are. And then if you're an individual that is kind of like me, having to be the pillar for those around you, you're sort of a take charge individual. But you don't often take charge inside of your personal world. Delegate. Some things that you are doing so much all the time for everybody, delegate it to somebody else so that you can free up the space that you need to think. And when you choose to start freeing up that space, the life ebbs and flows that often keep you in a position where you aren't thinking well, will give you the chance to pause. We'll give you that 4 hours I was talking about earlier so that you can refill your cup of life, so that you can then pour out into those around you, like you've been doing, like you want to do, like they're used to you doing. But you can also put boundaries that are in place, that are supportive of you and supportive of them. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. A change in perspective will support you as well as it supports everybody else around you. Give yourself the space and grace that you give to everybody else. Just know that you don't have to continue to walk in on this path on your own. Every obstacle that you face, someone else may have walked on that journey before and I've done it. And you can get to the place where you will learn how to pull up a strength that will support you. Then, if you want me to join you on the journey, feel free, put the comments below and join me. And as I go live again next week, because we do this extended conversation for Red Alert Diaries, and I want you to join me. And if any of this has resonated with you, or if you thought of somebody along the way in the conversation, like, share, and have them see it, because this is designed to give you support. This is designed to help you along the journey. So, in the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time.